Hi, my name is Jason Wells and I'm the forester with Sonoma Resource Conservation District. And today I'm going to help guide you through the application for the North Bay Forest Improvement Program. So the first thing that you'll notice when you get to the application page is that it asks you if you have read some documents prior to attempting to fill this out. So there's a frequently asked questions section that goes over quite a few commonly encountered problems, but hopefully this video will also go over quite a bit of that and will make this smooth. So the very first field that's going to be asked about is the landowner information. And so you can put in your first name, I'll put in mine, and your last name. And for the purposes of doing this particular application, I'm going to be using Salt Point State Park as an example. So it should look something like this. Property size, that's going to depend on what your actual property is. Assessor's parcel number, there are a few different ways that you can get that sort of information. I mean, I'm assuming if you're a landowner, you'll have that information already in your deed. But if you needed to go and find that, there's a couple different places you can do it. Most counties will have a website that you can look up your parcel and have more information about that. So I will quickly navigate to Sonoma County's, which is a very helpful application, and we'll go zoom over to Salt Point State Park. And so you can see that there's parcels already on this map, and if you click on that, the very first thing at the very top is the parcel number. So many properties are going to have multiple parcel numbers. You will need to put in all of the parcel numbers for your property. So moving back now to the application. The multi-property project is asking essentially if you have worked with your neighbors to try and submit a proposal that is going to take place over multiple properties. So that's always something that we encourage landowners to be doing, is working with their neighbors and expanding the scope and scale of their projects so that it has a larger landscape benefit. So if that is the case, you would select yes, and you would then list all of the properties and landowners. So that might be something like listing out the APN numbers and the landowner name for each individual landowner. So something like that, input in there to give us an idea of what we're looking at. So the next question here is substantially damaged within the last 36 months. That really is aimed towards our fire survivors. And so if a fire has come through and substantially damaged your property within the last 36 months, you could select yes. For this example, I'll say no. But that 36-month thing is really, it's an important aspect for reforestation, and it's really critical to get out and do work within that time period following an event. Not to say that you shouldn't be doing work otherwise, but that's pretty important. County, whatever county you happen to be in, we're using Salt Point, so we use Sonoma County. There is a fun ArcGIS thing here to tell you how to find your legal description, and so you could use this. Alternatively, I will show you how to use CalTopo, which we'll be using for the rest of the presentation here. So here I am zoomed out right now looking over the North Bay. So Salt Point should be right in around here. There it is. So Most of you who are applying for this program should have a forest management plan that was prepared by a registered professional forester or by a Natural Resource Conservation Service, has conservationists that can help write plans. But you should have an idea of what exactly it is that you're trying to apply for before you actually apply for it. If you have something like that, but you're not certain about some of the maps that we're asking for, you can help provide some of that information using websites like CalTopo, where you can actually draw polygons on there and find information about how many acres we're looking for. And you could print that out into a map, and then you could submit that map for your application. So I'm going to try and do something like that right now, just to show an example of how something like this could be done. So before, if you were trying to figure out what the area or how to describe where your property is, you'll see in front of you here, there's T9N and T8N. That stands for Township 9 North, Township 8 North. And that actually is from the Public Land Survey System, which is a very old way of essentially when they were trying to categorize the West, they used the Public Land Survey System to describe areas. So basically townships are 36 section blocks, with each section being a square mile. So you'll see this red number here as a 35. That means that that is section 35, Township 9 North. And if we want to find out what the range is, we can go to the end of the 36. Range 13, range 12 west. And so this goes due north-south. So we know from before, now we're in range 13, Township 9 North, range 13 west. This happens to be based off the Mount Diablo baseline meridian. I'm not going to go too far in depth into what the Public Land Survey System is. That's something that you could Google, or if you are working with a forester, they will already know this information. It's pretty commonplace between foresters and surveyors. So showing how to make a polygon. So maybe this is a unit that's on your property that you specifically want to do work on, or maybe this is trying to describe the property boundary for your entire parcel, and you don't happen to have that shape layer. Well, you can make that shape layer by going to Add New Object and clicking Polygon. So now you can write in a label for what that's going to be. And for this particular example, I'm going to imagine that this is the property boundary for our fictional area. And you can see that it'll even show you how to sort of snap to features that the program has identified on the map. So I'll start here, and we'll make our property look something like this. Come down this gulch, and we'll follow this road, and that's our property. So how big is our property? Well, we can find out by going and selecting the bulk ops template here. And it'll show you that it is 0.22 kilometers squared, or 55 acres. So our property in this example is a 55 acre property, which is perfect because that fits within the 5 to 500 acre realm that we were talking about before. And you'll notice on this map that there is a large white section. So on USGS topo maps, which is what I have selected as my base map, is the 7.5 minute topo maps. areas that are white are usually grasslands, and areas that are green are usually forests. And then there will be some in-between type things like this over here, usually indicates chaparral, although this happens to be a pygmy forest. So, but anyway, bringing it back to our example, 55-acre property now. Let's say, because we are not going to be applying for treatments in the grassland area, we are just going to be trying to do some work in and around the roads for defensible space purposes or something. So we're going to add a new object, and we're going to make a polygon. And that polygon is going to follow along the road that we're concerned about, where we're going to be doing treatments. And we'll come up a reasonable amount. We could even double check this to make sure that this is a reasonable amount, and I will do that right now to show how this works. There's a measure tool here, and you can use the line for measure distance. And let's say that from this road we want to have 100 feet off the road cleared for fire safety. So we will click once, and you can kind of see in the top right over here that it's measuring in meters and in miles, or moving back down to feet. So the area that I guessed from where I was at is approximately 150 feet, which, you know what, that's close enough. That seems like that's a good project area for what we're doing right now. So 150 feet from the road for this area. Oh, thank you, CalTopo. 54 meters, 178 feet from where I double clicked. We will go back to our unnamed polygon, and we will name it. And we're going to label this as Unit 1. And the comment will be that this is a shaded fuel break. And maybe we'll even say that it's timber stand improvement 2, because that's what we're going to be applying for. So I'll change the color on this so it's a little easier to be able to pick out. So this will be my blue polygon. Hit OK. And let's find out how many acres is this particular unit. Go back to bulk ops. It's going to show us both the property boundary and the unit. This is a 4-acre unit. So when we go to apply and we want to say that we're going to do timber stand improvement, we're keeping in mind that this area is 4 acres. But that's not all that we're going to try and do for this particular parcel. We still have this road here. Might be an important section that we want to try and do some work off of. So we'll come over here and we will make a new object. Actually, we want a new layer. I lied. So we will make a new object, and it is a polygon. And we'll start on the road and follow back along the road again. To the corner of the property. And we'll try and go out about 100 feet or so. Again, I'm eyeballing this. If you were to work with a forester, they could actually use a much more sophisticated program than this. But this is pretty good for free. And we'll make our second unit, which we will name Unit 2. And again, in the comments, this is going to be a shaded fuel break. Or we'll use timber stand improvement 2 to do that. And we'll make this one green. Okay. Let's say that this area here had been an oak woodland that was being encroached. And so we wanted to make sure to keep the oaks happy and keep the we'll say it's Douglas fir from moving into their area. So we will make a new polygon. and we'll draw it roughly right in here where the problem area is. And so this will be Unit 3. And the comment for this is that this is oak woodland restoration. And we'll make this color purple. Okay. So now we have 3 units to apply for. We can look back at bulk ops and see how big each one of them is. So, oh, I guess it did not. I need to hit OK. There we go. Bulk ops. So I've got Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. And Unit 3 is 2 acres, Unit 2 is 6, and Unit 1 is 4 acres. So with that in mind, and knowing what we want to do, we'll go back to the application. And in order to put in that legal description, we found that our property was on Township 9 North, although technically this is also going to be on 8. But for filling this out, I'm going to keep it short. So this is T9 North, Range 13 West, Section 34. As you can see, 34 section would have probably come in and ended right around here. So technically we also have 33 split in here. So I'm going to also throw that in. Oh, I guess I screwed that up. The sections are 33 and 34. The township is 9 north. The range is 13 west. So this is what it should look like when we are complete. We've got our sections that are tied in here. We've got the township and the range. And you'll notice on the CalTopo, why is this cut off? And it would likely be because, especially for Sonoma County, it's often because there's a rancho. So old Spanish land grants that predate the public land survey system. And so in that case, you'll do just like I did. You could estimate where it is based on where in that block it should have lied. Otherwise, you could just also say that it's in that rancho, and that's perfectly acceptable also if you can't estimate the section. Just write in the rancho that you happen to be in. So to find the USGS Quad Map that you're looking for, you can click on this link right here once we get the hyperlink working. But in the meantime, I will just make my own hyperlink. Type in your address. And then once you've typed in your address, zoom in. And you'll find that our project is in the Plantation Quad. Payment rate requested. We allow for individuals to accept less funding if they so choose, to give themselves more points on our ranking system, giving them a higher chance of being funded. But in this case, we're going to go with the regular incentives rate. If you've already entered into a similar project agreement with NRCS using EQIP funds, you can basically say whether or not you think that working with this program is going to lead to you being able to double the amount of acres that you would have treated. Not double, but increase the number of acres that you could treat this year, or not really have any additional treatment acres, or you just don't have EQIP funds. And so that's what we're going to select this time, because that's the most likely scenario for most people. So the question 6 is basically asking whether or not you have entered into an EQIP or CFIP or grant funded program in the last 5 to 10 years, and if the work that you're requesting right now is to maintain the work that you had done before. So say that you were awarded a CAL FIRE grant 5 years ago for a shaded fuel break on your property, and there has been regrowth that's come back that needs to be managed. You could then say yes. But I think for most people that's not going to be the case. So for this example, I'll say no. The project is adjacent to or within a community wildfire protection plan, CAL FIRE unit plan, or existing vegetation management project, and clearly demonstrates it would benefit co-benefits to the larger community or watershed beyond the project footprint. Applicants should provide evidence supporting the claim. So in this case, this is really only for projects that are taking place within something that was demonstrated by some larger community plan. So in order to find your CAL FIRE unit plan, you're going to go to this website here that has the California Fire Plan, so Strategic Fire Plan for California. And so this is housed under the Office of the State Fire Marshal. And if you go down here, you'll see every unit plan for all of the units in California. And because we're working in Sonoma County, we'll go to the LNU Fire Plan. And so moving down to the summary table of contents, you'll see that in the appendices, they have a vegetation management projects section on page 35. So we'll go down to page 35. Once you've reached page 35, you can see LNU Vegetation Management Project and all these different projects with each battalion that's been identified. So if you need to find out where your battalion is, they've thankfully included a map. So we happen to be in Battalion 1411. This is where Salt Point State Park is. So we'll go back up here and we'll turn this thing clockwise so we can actually read it. And so 1411 is our battalion. So you can see that there is a planned vegetation management projects, and there's a list of areas and list of projects. So if you happened to be in one of these areas, you probably would know it. But at this point, I'm seeing that Salt Point is listed on here, and so is the Salt Point Upper Prairie RX Fire, which actually is right where we are doing work. So in this case, I will select that yes, it is in that area. So in this case, the evidence for it is basically going to be in my narrative section, which is short, but I'll just reference that I've been listed in the unit plan. So my personal management objectives and land use alternatives. What we've identified here is, so we'll just say it was for forest health. No one really lives here, so we'll just keep it at forest health for this example. So because there's no other place to discuss where your property may fit in with a larger CWPP or CAL FIRE unit plan, what you'll likely want to do is check the box for other, and then use this opportunity to describe how your project is within the CAL FIRE unit plan, or what other document you happen to be referencing. So you may want to also include a page number or some sort of appendices, and specifically list out what project is being referenced in that document. So here on my resource assessment forest management recommendations, I'll briefly describe the timber stand conditions, slope, and if there are forest management plan units that we'll be conducting it in. You can type that out here, and what the desired post-project stand condition. So we really don't need that much information. We want a general idea of what it is that you're applying for. Why have you contacted us? So we have a mixed conifer hardwood Douglas fir stand. Our slopes are gentle, so they're less than 30%. The current condition is thick and overstocked with small diameter trees, and it has a completely closed canopy with occasional ladder fuels. Units 1 and 2 we were trying to have designated as shaded fuel breaks. So we want those thinned, pruned, and the slash pile burned. Unit 3 was an oak woodland, and so we're imagining that it's been encroached by Douglas fir, which we want to be removed from the stand, and we'll have to pile burn that material to benefit those oaks. So are you applying for preparation of a forest management plan by a registered professional forester? So if this is the case and you're selecting yes, and then what you're going to want to do is basically that's going to override any other considerations. And if you are in a disadvantaged community, you can apply for assistance creating one of these management plans. So you would select basically whether or not you were in a disadvantaged community here, yes or no. A yes means you're applying for a forest management plan in a disadvantaged community. So if we remember, we have a 55-acre property, and we have a 4-acre unit of thinning shaded fuel brick. We have a 7-acre unit, also shaded fuel brick, and we have a 2-acre unit that is oak woodland restoration. So with that in mind, under our treatment options here, to do a shaded fuel break, what we're going to want to do is thin out the small material, and we're going to want to prune up any conifers that are there. So we had 11 units, or 11 acres. So we had 11 acres of thinning to do for our shaded fuel break in total. And along with that, we'll do some pruning work. And in order to make sure that we're not leaving all that material behind, we'll want to follow it up. Basically, if we don't put follow up in here, we're assuming that what we're going to be doing is lop and scatter. So just cutting it up into small pieces and leaving it where it is. But we're right next to a road, and it would be nicer and cleaner to have that material either chipped or otherwise removed from site. We're going to go with pile burn. So we'll call that 11 acres for now as well. But we also have 2 acres of oak woodland restoration. And in order to do that, we're probably going to want to do pile burn as well. So we'll add that to our total. We're not doing a composition adjustment, even though we technically are with the oak woodland restoration, but we're going to leave that blank. That's a slightly different application. And so for our project footprint, we have 13 acres total. That's 11 acres of the shaded fuel break and 2 acres of the oak woodland restoration. So our total project footprint is going to take place over 13 acres. Has my property been evaluated for sensitive cultural and or biological resources? Well, if you have a forest management plan, you may have already had this done. So the California Natural Diversity Database, or CNDDB, is a public record basically of known sites of threatened, endangered, and sensitive biological resources. So that'll be plants and animals that are on the endangered species list. In this example, I don't have any of this stuff done. I haven't had an archaeology search of my property or anything. So I will say not completed for both of them. Although you may have a forest management plan where this has been completed already and you'll have wanted to talk to your forester about that in advance. So I don't know about any archaeological or historical sites, so I'll click no. If applicable, has my area been surveyed by an archaeologist? We said no, so we don't have to click this. So for the property map and project map, essentially we can just turn in the same file twice, which was our CalTopo file. So to save that map into a PDF that you can upload, first you're going to want to go down to Generate PDF and click on that. And it'll bring up this map where now you can download it. And so you'll want to give it a file name and a location. And now that you have that, you should be able to access a PDF file of your newly created map. So for my property map, I will go to Add File and I will select the map that was generated from CalTopo. This red X here is not bad. What that means is that a file's been uploaded, and if you accidentally loaded the wrong PDF, you would click on this button to remove that particular PDF. But that's fine. So we'll keep that there. I'm just going to double load the same map. If I wanted to, I could make a separate map that was closer up, that had specifically notes written on it about which particular practice I was trying to do. All that sort of information is really helpful. So if you have that, that gives us a much better idea of what's going on. The USGS map, interestingly enough, because of this CalTopo, and I did it at 1 to 24,000, and I was using a USGS, again, actually, this would be the same document. Now, you could have had 3 different maps that best represent each of these, but just for the examples that I have, that's what we'll be using. We did not do a CNDDB search, but if you did, you might have a 3-mile biological assessment area map, and you would then also have a list of species that came up on that hit, and that would end up here. Forestry Plan, so if you have a forest management plan, you could add the file at this location. And if you said that you were going to do an equip contract, this is where you would load that as well. Similar thing, and when you're done, you'll hit submit, and that is the process. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have general questions, please reach out to Molly Curley O'Brien. If you have specific questions about applying in your county, please feel free to reach out to your representative district